What are land restrictions and why should you care about them? Land use restrictions are rules that dictate how the piece of land can be used. It can be things like zoning laws, easements, deed restrictions. So there's several different types of restrictions. The first is going to be your zoning law. So even if a piece of property doesn't have any deed restrictions, it could have things in the zoning law that are going to prevent you from being able to use the property for what you're wanting. Zoning laws are going to be residential, they're going to be commercial, they're going to have agricultural uses or industrial uses. So if you're looking for land, check with the agent, find out what the zoning is for that particular piece of land. Second type of restriction is going to be an environmental rule. So here in East Tennessee, a good example of this would be that TVA owns everything below the 1080 line on the lake. So you can't cut the trees down. If they're below the 1080, you can't build any kind of structures without getting TVA approval. So make sure you're aware of where that 1080 line is if you're buying lakefront property. Third type of restriction is going to be an HOA covenant. So those are rules of the subdivision about fencing, having home businesses, having short or long-term rentals in the home, those kind of things. Then you're also going to have historic preservation restrictions. So if you have a home that has been zoned as a National Historic Place, such as the Arrow Hills Mansion in the Talbot area, then you are going to have restrictions placed on you as to what you can do in ways of updating or redoing the home's interior. Why do restrictions matter? Well, they can affect property values. They can help maintain community order and they promote environmental conservation, but they can also limit what you're allowed to do with your property, right? So the potential challenges with living in an HOA are you're going to have conflicts with your plans, you may incur legal costs, and you could have reduced property values. Do your research before you buy a piece of property. Make sure you know the zoning, make sure you know any deed restrictions, make sure you know exactly what you're allowed or not allowed to do with that particular piece of property. And if you need an agent who's familiar with purchasing land and selling land, make sure you send me a DM.